Hey everyone, Sports Underground back right after the draft here. Something pretty quick, which is unusual for us, but we're going to recap the Vikings draft, and then we're going to do another presentation and recap the entire NFL draft with some grades and some thoughts on everything that happened. Ken Clutcher joined by Mike Welch again. So Mike, we got the draft recap screen up here. Before we get into it, one thought on the Vikings draft.
I think it says it up there on the screen. They kind of got their man. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a no-brainer pick. It was a safe pick. Mm-hmm. As far as Spielman goes, we might address this later on in the show. As far as Spielman goes, he made the no-brainer pick, but the second first-round pick is what is going to really matter, I think, in this draft.
Yeah, I think so too. Going through a little bit of the recap here, trading back one spot I thought was, well, first a no-brainer and a pretty shrewd move by Spielman that he got people to buy into the fact that we really were looking at that cornerback when there was absolutely no way they were ever going to take that guy. Pretty impressed with that move.
No, and it made perfect sense because as I sat down to watch a draft, I thought, this is exactly what needs to happen. We can safely move back one, maybe two spots, still get our guy, and, maybe play Tampa Bay and Cleveland against each other, even though I don't think Tampa Bay ever really wanted that running back, Richardson,
I don't think
that
so
early.
No.
I think that was one of the best bluffs in the history of the league.
Yeah, I think so too. And, got their man. Khalil was their guy, obviously. Yep. The areas of need, they did take receivers. They did take some D-backs. I think that even if the picks weren't exactly what we hoped they would be or who they would be, at least they made their move. They tried to get their guys, and they did address receiver, cornerback, safety, the places where we did have the biggest holes.
Yep. Well, let's get started here with our first pick. Obviously, we took our guy like we talked about. We did take Matt Khalil. He's the offensive tackle, USC. Biggest no-brainer, I think, for the Vikings. Easiest, safest pick. He's 6'6", 306. Great pick. He's a need pick. Again, there's no secret here. He does shore up the offensive line. He immediately is the best player on the offensive line there. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we talked about trading back to acquire picks with the Browns.
Yeah, I like this pick. First of all, we've talked about this for 3 or 4 months now, that there was no one else to take but this guy, because left tackle is a spot where you can't or are not going to find someone in free agency. Teams usually hold on to these guys. If you're going to get yourself an elite one, it's got to be through the draft. And not only did you get someone who you needed, you also got probably one of the top 3 talents in the draft.
Exactly, yep. Exactly, I agree.
Round 1, the Vikings traded back up into the first round for pick 29 to draft Harrison Smith, a safety from Notre Dame. 6'2", 213 pounds. We talked about him in our pre-draft conversation, how there is some concerns about him. Some people that really follow Notre Dame football question whether he really was worth a first-round pick. Workout warrior. He was rising up the charts. But once again, like we mentioned, the Vikings needed a safety. Like it or not, they made their move. They went after the guy they want. And, he was the second best safety prospect in the draft.
Yeah, I think all that is correct. We had to do something, and I do like the kind of ballsy pick that Spielman did. He did something that was gutsy. Mm-hmm. But problem is, he's going to be kind of married to this pick a little bit like Childress was to Jackson. Yeah, maybe not to that magnitude, but this pick is going to define what Spielman did this year.
Yeah, because anyone could have picked Khalil and saw he was good.
Right.
This is a little bit of a reach, and it's
he gave something up to get him. Right?
Yeah, and he was trying to make his mark, and that's something you could see through this draft. Is I think Spielman was trying to put his stamp on the franchise, and kind of let you know he was in charge. These were his picks, and so there's no question anymore. It was him that did this, and I guess that's at least good to know.
And at least after this, it's kind of the rest of the draft is kind of the rest of the draft. It's not, you're not going to get necessarily, you're going to try to find a gem for us here on out, and you're going to try and shore up your needs and hopefully find somebody that can play for you. But we needed a hit on these first two picks.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I hope we did.
Well, Harrison Smith makes the draft work. If you hit Khalil, which you're going to probably, and you don't hit this, the draft was a failure. You hit on both of these, it's a success.
Right.
Without grading it out, that's
Right.
pretty simplified, but that's kind of how I
Right.
see it right now.
So hopefully he works out.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree. Of course, they gave their second round pick to move up to get Harrison Smith. So in round 3, the Vikings take Josh Robinson at pick 66, a cornerback from Central Florida, 5'10", 199, 4'3", 340. Some people have reported a 4'2", 940. Either way, he was the fastest cornerback at the combine. Can he make the plays he's going to take in the NFL? Speed makes up for a lot of shortcomings, and right now, a good athlete with some speed is something we can use in that defensive backfield.
Yep, he did shoot up some draft boards from what I read, and again, the speed factor is important. He is very athletic. We'll see if he can play, actually, if that translates. You see some of the wide receivers that, like, for example, the Raiders draft. Mm-hmm. They're fast, but can they play? Can they catch?
Right, exactly.
There might have been possibly better rated cornerback prospects at the spot where we took him. Mm-hmm. But, again, third round, if we find one here, great.
Yeah, and you needed a cornerback. You drafted a cornerback. I guess you can't fault anyone for trying to shore up an area of need.
And something we're going to talk about later on. I think next year we might address cornerback real early.
Right, I agree.
So we might get our impact guy next year.
Yeah, maybe this guy turns out to be a nickelback. Hey, you know what? Third round pick turns a nickelback. That would be great if you can find some other talent,
Sure.
next year, free agent, whatever. And we've got a little more defensive back talk coming up because the Vikings really could have shored some stuff up this weekend.
Yeah,
and chose not
right.
to.
So if anything, it adds a little bit more competition and depth, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick 4, Jarius Wright, wide receiver from Arkansas. A little short for a receiver at 5'9", 182. He sort of reminds me of Percy Harvin, which you question do we need another Percy Harvin? But production's production, 66 catches, 11-17 for yards and 12 touchdowns. I'm guessing that he's going to come in immediately work in return game because no one wants Percy taking a beating returning kicks. And we haven't exactly been lighting up on punt returns with Marcus Sherrills.
No, I think you're right. I think that's the first thing that came to mind when I saw this pick was maybe a return game kind of guy, maybe punt kick returns. He is a small, kind of quick possession receiver. I mean, obviously Wes Welker's kind of the standard for that. Mm-hmm. But I think that kind of receiver.
Right.
So we'll see what we got.
Round 4, Rhett Ellison, fullback from USC. They say he is the next Jim Kleinsasser type player, and we move on.
Is that right?
That is correct. He was as surprised as we were, I guess, that he got drafted, especially in the 4th round.
Oh, is that right? Was
he said he was out on the river just fishing away and completely almost fell off the boat, I guess, when he realized he got drafted.
Huh. Well, so, that's good for us.
Rick Rickard-like, I think,
it
in that way. Round 4, pick 39. We go right back to Arkansas. They're running people out of there faster than Bobby Petrino right now. Greg Childs, wide receiver from Arkansas. Now, 6'3", 219. This is the kind of receiver that I think we needed more than the shorter, slot speed guy. Big target. He was hurt. Injuries took down his production. So I think this is the kind of guy you're looking for in these middle rounds where the upside is huge. If you hit on this guy, you look like a genius. And if he doesn't work out, no one remembers your 4th round pick 2 years from now anyway.
No, exactly. I think this was another, like we talked about, competition pick. Mm-hmm. I think Mike Jenkins, kind of the same type of receiver, a little bit bigger.
Yep.
Probably not the fastest guy in the team, but maybe has, the sky's the limit for the upside. We'll see where we're at with that.
Right.
Again, maybe there were better or more well-known wide receiver options on the board, but again, this guy here is one that kind of stands out to me as maybe being one that could maybe really actually catch on with the team and stick around for a while. I do like the size. I do think it's what we needed. I wish he was maybe a little faster.
Yeah, if his hands are good, like the Mike Jenkins thing was good because Jenkins is going to be here for another year, maybe 2 years tops. Yeah, give this guy a year or two to kind of fill in. Yeah. If he becomes that guy that can catch the ball, convert some third downs for you, a real solid pick. And hopefully, with the Jerome Simpson signing, you got your guy to maybe go down the field. Who knows? In a couple of years, maybe you've got a pretty productive receiving core if you keep a Simpson around and a guy like this develops into a even a B-level NFL receiver.
Yeah, but Simpson has to be that guy that we expect him to be because he is what he is right now.
Absolutely.
He's not making headlines when we signed him, but it is kind of like, oh well, at least we got somebody. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we'll see where we're at with that. It kind of reminds me of a little bit of size and maybe the kind of characteristics of Shanko.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit,
And there's a lot of that hybrid tight end receiver thing going on, so maybe this is the next guy in that Jermichael Finley.
That's exactly what I was going to say, like a hybrid deal. Yep.
Yeah. Round 5, pick 4. Robert Blanton, safety from Notre Dame, 6 foot, 208 pounds. You watched all that Harrison Smith tape. Why not? You might have picked something up on this guy. Could be a corner, could be a safety, just special teams guy, and you can't add enough bodies in that defensive backfield as bad as we were last year.
No, again, like we bring it up, just some more competition back there, and maybe hit on a guy.
Yeah, I can't say that I've seen a lot of Robert Blanton activity.
No, I can't. I guess what I gather on this one, it may be a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of reach too, but it just reeked of, oh, look at this guy who Harrison Smith's playing with. Maybe we should take a flyer on him in the 5th round.
Right, I agree with that. So moving on to our maybe most surprising and least likely to succeed pick in the draft. Round 6, pick 5, Blair Walsh, a kicker from Georgia. I know that you have Longwell, and I know Longwell costs a lot of money, and as bad as we are, we don't have to pay $3 million a year for a kicker. But isn't there about 50 kickers out of work right now that we could have just signed and not wasted a pick on?
Now, remember when the Twins traded away Rick Aguilera a half dozen times in the 90s?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they do that?
Because they kept getting people that we never knew who they were back in return.
That's correct. However, they were a bad team, and a bad team doesn't need a closer.
That's correct.
A bad team doesn't necessarily need a kicker to win them games either.
Right. I know we picked him because this guy's got a strong leg for kickoffs, that kind of thing.
Right.
But
the first thing that came to mind when I saw this pick, I'm like, huh? And I went, God damn it. It's probably a reach, but let's also remember the importance of a kicking game, because I talked myself off the ledge on this pick. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, remember the importance of a kicking game where we were without one.
Yeah, but for us, a punter's way more important than a kicker because we do punt quite a bit. We don't score enough. Our kicker kicks off at halftime, and he probably can go hit the showers.
Right. We do have an aging, expensive kicker on the roster, so let's not forget that. We did touch on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. We have here...
we're probably spending way too much time on a 6th-round pick.
Right.
If the guy sticks around, great. If he doesn't, and even if we want to get rid of Longwell, there's 50 kickers out there we could probably sign up.
I just wish we would have took somebody else.
Yeah, I do too. Someone that maybe could make an impact on the team.
Yeah.
Like perhaps Audi Cole.
That's right.
Round 7, pick 3.
Our inside linebacker of the future from North Carolina State. He's 6'4", 246. That's pretty good size for our linebacker. He did make a lot of tackles. He was actually a playmaker. Supposed to be a high motor, high energy, football intelligent guy. Mm-hmm. But maybe he knows how to play, but I'm just worried that he can't play. Yeah, not a lot of speed from what I heard on him. He doesn't get around the edge very well, but he works hard. He's very intelligent. Yep. And I guess in the 7th round, what are you really going to get with a 7th round pick? He might actually be some value there. This is maybe a pick that could have gone with that 6th round pick where the kicker goes. I'm just saying.
I heard there was 4th round grades on him because of his intelligence.
Yeah.
But the guy like this, all you're hoping for is he maybe can work on special teams, and he picks up enough that if Jasper Brinkley has to leave for a few series, the guy can come in and just not embarrass himself and cover a hole. But he's definitely, you're not picking him here to be a starting middle linebacker.
No, we might actually have expectations for him though than the average 7th round pick. We'll see what happens though.
Right, absolutely. And then the Vikings' last pick in the draft, Trevor Guyton, not to be confused with the Troy Guyon, defensive end from California, 6'2", 285, a little small for me, I guess.
See, that's what I thought too. A little bit small for what we wanted a defensive end to look like and be like. But I guess he is pretty fast and kind of quick. If that's the same thing or different,
right? And it's not about small being a defensive end. It was the versatility. They said he could play inside a little bit too, and that's where I kind of came into the 285. Doesn't really seem that big to be line in the middle of that. But like I said, 7th round, the 12th pick in the 7th round. Who knows? If the guy works out, great. If he doesn't, I don't think anyone's going to hold Spielman over the coals for
but
missing on a 7th round.
He's actually supposed to be a good value for the 7th round, to be honest with you. I've read a lot of people kind of excited for him.
Right. So, in summary here on the Vikings draft, maybe they didn't turn the team around immediately, but maybe they shored up 2 spots. If you get Harrison Smith and Matt Khalil, they both work out.
Sure.
You're not going to go from 3-13 to 11-5 overnight. But
no, and that's what I mean by saying, didn't turn the team around immediately, but we did increase the competition, and I think I'm excited to see how some of these offensive guys develop too.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. Depth, we did go after spots we were weak in, wide receiver, D-back. I like the fact we did that. If we find a gem, that would be awesome. You hope that at least one of those guys from the third round down turns into a starter. If not, 3 or 4 guys into at least pieces that will fill in and improve this team. Some special teams help, obviously. And for 2013, I don't know if our record is going to be a ton better, with these guys, but I don't think you're going to see the mistakes and just the blatant lack of effort.
No.
Because
towards the end, they shut it down after, week 10?
But I mean, think about when we played the Packers. How many times did Packer receivers just get behind that defense wide open? I think at least here, with some of the speed you added, and maybe Harrison Smith's got a little bit of playmaking skills, I don't think that kind of thing is probably going to happen.
Hopefully not, but I think in the long run, I think we probably are drafting around the same area, top 10-ish,
Right. I think so, too. I don't see us getting out of, top 6, 7 picks probably next year.
No, so we should be in good shape to improve the team next year and for the foreseeable future.
I agree.
Grading the draft, we got grading Spielman. I'd say, like we said, the Harrison Smith pick is going to define this draft and maybe define his first draft. I would say he did a good job. He made some ballsy, gutsy picks, and he did some things that were kind of eye-opening, and I kind of like that.
I do too, and I think that having him in charge of the draft, now whether he hits or misses isn't really the point, but the fact it was all on him, he was able to do what he wanted to do.
Yep, it makes him accountable.
Yeah, but I just like the fact that he was in charge. He did what he thought was right, and instead of all this wishy-washy, you never knew who was doing what. We can look at this and say he's the man now. I agree with the good job and didn't reach too much. Matt Khalil, not spectacular, very solid pick. What we needed. He got some extra value with those late round picks.
If we didn't pick him, then I think we would be really sorry. You would have a glaring need and a glaring problem.
Oh, absolutely. If we would have killed Matt Khalil, I would be so disappointed in Spielman in this draft. I probably wouldn't want to be doing this right now.
No.
But I have to think that since I wanted Khalil, we got Khalil, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yep. And I kind of thought as the draft started, I'm like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take Claiborne and we're going to cut Winfield in a cap-saving move. That's what I thought was going to happen. But we talked about some of the home runs, some of the misses we might have had there as we recap the draft. I think, and this is so stupid, but time will tell, of course.
Well, absolutely.
But, overall, I'd say a B minus, right in that area,
Yeah, and that's because the Harrison Smith thing, I wasn't a big fan of that.
No, I think it would have. The problem is he would have fell to us in the second round. Do you not think?
I think so too. Now, there's always people that fall in love with certain guys, and I guess if you love him, you go get him. But if he works out, this draft goes to an A because of him and Khalil.
I agree.
If he doesn't, it does B minus because we can't afford to be given, wasted first round picks.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
I heard that if Harrison Smith didn't go to us there, that Baltimore Packers, Patriots, all were going to take the guy next. But of course, you always hear that. We'll see.
I also like the fact that he turned a 5th round pick this year into a 4th round pick next year, and he also traded a 7th rounder this year into a 6th round for next year. Not that you're looking to hit on them, but just every round higher, there's a better chance to get someone.
And if anything else, they're bargaining chips for more trades.
Right, and how many rookies do you really want to bring in? We signed 15 rookie free agents after the draft.
We're getting younger, and so.
Right. You talked about Claiborne, being drafted.
Yep.
Thinking we could have added a quarterback. I agree. Kellen Moore, who was sitting out there, the Lions signed him as a free agent. He wins. He may not be the most talented guy, but our quarterback situation, we can't afford, or we could afford, to add a little bit more talent, a little competition, because until we see Ponder really start to produce, it's not like we're sold on a quarterback here.
No, and I think we might have to address quarterback and cornerback, actually, early next year. I think next year would be a good year for some offensive weapons to come into play, maybe bolster that a little bit. But I think we do maybe need to have Ponder think a little bit about looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think you want that guy getting comfortable because it is only his second year.
Right, it might be a little bit too early to start saying that, but, what if we ended up bringing in a Colt McCoy?
Right.
Somebody like that.
I don't think, even if Ponder does work out to be great, it can't hurt. It honestly can't hurt, because right now, Sage Rosenfeld is not going to push him. Joe Webb is spotty in a little competition, but it isn't like anyone expects Joe Webb to be the next Tom Brady. So
no, but he probably is, and then we find that out after we trade him. So
yeah, that's about right. So overall, I was pretty happy with the Vikings draft. just a little synopsis recap here. I liked the way Spielman approached it. He was better than I gave him credit for. I thought he was probably going to blunder this thing up pretty bad, but he did nothing to make me think we really screwed up.
No.
And I'm hoping that Harrison Smith works out. And then it was a very, very productive draft.
No, and just kind of wrapping up. If Khalil sucks, that's not his fault. If
No.
Harrison Smith sucks, that is his fault.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
that's all I got to say.
No, you're right about that. So thanks for watching the Vikings draft recap. That kind of puts a cover on their part of the 2012. So the next show, we'll also be doing a little draft recap on the whole NFL. So check that out. Thanks for all the draft views that we got. Pretty positive for us. So thanks again from the Sports Underground. He's Mike. I'm Kent. And we will talk to you very soon.